Hi, my name is Joanie'S. Welcome to my channel. Please go to my website, jonieswhitelightshealing.com, for more information about me. I am a psychic, a medium, a healer, and a spiritual counselor. I didn't believe in any of this before, and now I do. I was gifted with divine abilities around 2003, 4, 5. I was fast-tracked, and my world changed 180 degrees. So here I am. You could find me here on YouTube. Please subscribe and press the bell all icon, and you'll receive notifications of when I put out another video. Like, share, and comment below, as I love to hear what you have to say. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Blog Talk Radio, where I co-host a live call-in radio show with my dear friend Caroline on a monthly basis. And if you go to Blog Talk Radio and you type in UK-US Psychic Tag Team, you'll scroll down a bit, you'll find it. Please follow that and you'll receive notifications when we put out another show. So with that being said, I was thinking, and I was impressed with the fact that there are quite a number of spiritual teachers and psychics and readers and such that bring the attention back to themselves. And they tend to say I and me a lot. And they tell a lot about themselves, and they just keep bringing it back to themselves. Well, I have concerns about that, because a lot of times I wonder, when a person is doing a reading, a healing for another, and the focus goes back on them, how much are they focusing and empathizing and having compassion and actually addressing the other person? So I thought I would put out a few notes about this as to why a reader, why a healer would talk a lot about themselves. So we need to rule out when they're being interviewed. So if I'm being interviewed and they want to know my story, they want to know how I do things, I'm going to use the I and the me quite a bit. The focus is on me. If I'm interviewing someone else, I might validate it or bring up an example that I can relate to, but there's much more about you. The focus is on the other person. So we need to take into consideration if the person is recalling a story about themselves as well, if they are not doing work and they're talking about a dream they had, an experience they had, or they're imparting information and they use I and me in their discourse, that makes sense as well. What I'm referring to is when a person is doing a reading, a healing, a workshop, certification, training, and they keep bringing it back to themselves. So I took some notes because I need to. So here we go. The first thing that I put down was a person feeling powerful. So when a person learns that they have the gift, when they realize it, whether it's an old-time gift they've had and now they're performing, they're practicing it, whether it's professionally or it's a side gig or they're online and they're doing this as they want to, a lot of times people feel extremely powerful, that they have influence and they can possibly control people and influence them. So if they're having an issue regarding balance of power, you might find that the person is starting to talk about themselves very much. And it gives that person a great sense of, aside from power, it's more so that influence and control over another. I would say be aware of that. Sure, when a person comes into their power, that's great. But when they start talking a lot about themselves, when they're doing a reading for other and they are getting off on it, it could possibly be imbalance of power or abuse of power. So watch out for the power sign. Another piece here has to do with being heard. So if a person has not been heard in this lifetime or other lifetimes or both, a person might, who is a psychic, a healer, a reader, they might be focusing on themselves a lot because Now people are listening to them, and it is novel, and it is a fabulous feeling to now be heard. The question that I would pose to you is, are you being heard? So they might be feeling great that they're now being heard, but is there a balance? Are they listening to you? Do they hear you? Another piece here is being seen. So a person who is now vending at expos and festivals, or they're in a spiritual center, or they're on YouTube or another social media platform where there's a camera in front of them. Wow, I'm being seen, and the focus is on them. Again, is there an imbalance they had where they have felt invisible or dismissed, neglected in that way, being unseen, passed over in this lifetime and or other? Don't know. And that here they're getting really off on it. It feels really good. Sure, in front of the camera, whoop-de-doo, you're being seen. Again, does the person see you? So if they're talking a lot about themselves, I and me, and there's that camera there, or they're live on stage, or standing in front of a table and they're vending at a fair or expo, when they're working with you, do they see you, or do you get this feeling that they want you to see them? We're looking for balance here, folks, and we want the focus to be on you as the receiver of divine services. Influential. So a person might be focusing on themselves more because they want to be an influencer. They feel influential and they want to change your life. And if they are talking about themselves while they are doing their work in order to shift you, I'm not really picking up here that they are assisting you and over in your shoes doing the work that they need to do. To be influential, in fact, when you are a reader, a healer, is to be with that client at that moment that you are facilitating your services. And the influence comes from the efficacy of your work. That is the way you're influential. Also, you're influential by being true and transparent and having integrity and listening and utilizing your gifts to the best of your ability and calling in the highest of Christ-like consciousness in doing so. Next. Some people who are psychics and healers that bring the focus back to themselves get off on this. They get validated by being responded to. They're looking for validation. So it's interesting because the work that I'm doing is to help validate that person. But a person who is not in balance, a psychic, a healer who is bringing the focus back on themselves, might be looking for validation. So by having people come to them and have a session with them is the validation that they need. Their ego needs to be fed that they're okay, that they're good. Maybe they weren't validated here and or in other lifetimes. And this platform of their being a psychic, a healer, offers them the opportunity to balance that out. But if they go into imbalance, into tilt mode, and they start talking more about themselves, if there's a need for validation, you might not be getting the validation that you need. Here's another. Why might a person be doing this? They might be playing by opposites. So in this incarnation, maybe they were so overly focused on other that they're going to the other extreme now to see what it's like to be overly focused on self. And that's a very common human incarnation. The goal is to find the balance, to be there for self, be there for other, and not go in too much in one way or another. Curiosity. A soul might choose to come into an incarnation doing this and being imbalanced in this way. I'm curious. I'd like to see what it's like to be really overly self-focused. Simply curiosity. We're curious cats. We humans, we spirits in human bodies. And this, again, is a common human drama. Neediness. A person might have been floundering and they didn't have focus. They didn't feel that they had purpose. They come into their gifts. They learn how to read cards. They're dowsing. They're muscle testing. They're doing hands-on healing. They learn healing modalities. They're channeling, whatever it might be. And they are needy. They might feel lost. They might have that grabbiness, and that whatever that neediness is will come in the way of, as they perform their services, it's coming out that they're talking about themselves. There's a lot of, they want that person to join them in to make them feel needed. Your question is, how do you feel about that? Do you feel comfortable? And are they there for you, or are you there for them? I would answer that they are there for you. And if they are not there for you, I would not suggest continuing with the services. Lastly, I have here insecurity. Many people who generally are insecure will focus on themselves and talk a lot about themselves and use the I and the me during their time when they're working with you. And that's a flag, folks. Sure, there are times where I retell stories and they're entertaining and they have relevance. You need to see how you feel, go with your gut, your intuition. Are you feeling uncomfortable that you are listening to their story because they want you to be beholden to them and to fill them up? It's similar to neediness, which is also insecurity. Insecurity is a broader term. So many times people think that if a person is talking about themselves, that they're highly secure. I have found that the person who talks about themselves in an imbalanced way is actually highly insecure, and they're compensating for their insecurity. So you, as a recipient of services, of readings and healings, you get to decide how you feel about it. Are you feeling secure during this experience with the person that might be touting their own praises? So with that all being said, I would put this under the umbrella of fear, fear-based. It's not love-based, it's a fear-based action when a person is talking much about themselves. I will say, as a side note, it's just like a little offshoot. If a person keeps talking and talking and talking and talking, and they're not letting you get a word in edgewise, that often is a sign of abuse of power, neediness, wanting validation, being the social influencer, wanting to be heard, wanting to be seen. It's really a lot of what I had just mentioned before. And so that's another sign as well. If you aren't able to get a word in edgewise, there is a sign. So with all of that being said, use your discernment, use your judgment. We're looking for balance here. And that you're the recipient of the services when you go to a reader, a healer, a spiritual counselor, and that when I and me is overused, it is often a sign unless the person is being interviewed. Okay. I hope that this was relevant. I hope that some of this resonated. And if it didn't, put it on the shelf. Save it for a rainy day. I hope that all of your services are balanced and that you enjoy your day. Bye, y'all.